Perspective. So we're back with my new co-host, Renee Bracey-Sherman, a policy representative for the National Network of Abortion Funds and the program manager for the We Testify Abortion Storytelling Project.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here.
Okay. Renee, whenever you're ready, will you share your abortion story with us?
Yeah, so when I was 19, I had an abortion. I was in a relationship with a guy that I was both in love with, but we were also in a really toxic relationship. And we fought a lot, but I also loved him. And so when I realized that it was not a good relationship for me to be in, and I realized that I was pregnant, I immediately knew that I wanted to have an abortion. So this was about 12 years ago. And so I looked up in the phone book for an abortion clinic, and somehow I knew that if I should go in the A section and find the clinic, and I knew to make sure that the clinic actually performed abortions. I knew that there were clinics that would lie and say that they did, but didn't. And I made an appointment for later in the week, and it's honestly one of the best healthcare decisions that I've ever made, and best experiences that I've ever had. The nurse was so kind. She held my hand, while I laid back, and I had sedation, so she held my hand during that. And the doctor, he greeted me. He was so kind, and I'm just so thankful for that experience. And even though I grew up in a family that was pro-choice and that was really supportive of abortion rights, we didn't always talk about it very much. And so, I didn't feel like I could go to my parents, because I felt like if I told them, they would be upset because they knew that my boyfriend was bad for me. And I didn't really want to have the "I told you so" lecture. You know how that goes. And so I kept it a secret. But I wish that I hadn't. I wish that, I had one of my family members to go with me and to be in the clinic with me. So it wasn't until about 6 years after my abortion that I finally decided to tell my parents. And that was after I'd met other people who'd had abortions, and I knew that I wasn't the only person. And I knew that, it was a common experience, and that I was okay. And so I remember telling both of my parents. I told my mom first, and we cried on the phone together. And she was sad in that she couldn't have been there with me. She wished that I had come to her and that she could have been able to support me. She was not upset with me for having an abortion. She supported my decision. And so that's the only thing I do regret about my abortion, is that I didn't tell my mom at that time. I could have gotten a lot of support, and I didn't know. And then a couple of months later, I told my dad, and I was really worried about what he would say. So I gave him this long story of here's what happened, and here's why I had an abortion, and here's why you should support my decision, and I don't regret it. And I was like, okay, so what do you think? And he just looked at me and said, that's fine, it's your decision, your body, and I support your decision. And so to have that affirmation really made an already great experience, both healthcare-wise and the fact that I felt empowered in my decision and able to leave the relationship shortly after that. It felt like it came full circle, and that the people who loved me cared about me and supported my decision. And something that we say at the National Network of Abortion Funds is that everyone loves someone who's had an abortion. You might not know it yet. So we want to remind everyone that, your actions, your words, the things that you say about people who have abortions, you're impacting someone you love. And so we really need to think about how we're being mindful and supporting one another through our decisions.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Welcome.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the We Testify project?
Yeah, so it's a new program called We Testify, and it's an abortion storyteller leadership program. And we particularly support abortion storytellers at the intersection of race, class, gender identity, geography. We want to make sure that we're diversifying the abortion stories that are out there in the world. At the National Network of Abortion Funds, we're a network of 70 organizations that help people pay for their abortions. And so we're seeing a lot of people who aren't able to pay for abortions because their insurance doesn't cover it. They're dealing with racism and sexism in the healthcare system and from the anti-abortion protesters outside the clinic. They're dealing with stigma. They're living in rural areas. And so we want to make sure that those stories are also lifted up in the media so that we understand what the challenges are around accessing abortion care. The majority of people who have abortions are people of color, so we want to make sure that those stories are really reflected. We want to make sure that queer folks are able to share their abortion stories. We have a storyteller, Jack Gutierrez, who's amazing. They're a trans person and talk about what it's like to get an abortion as a trans person. And so I'm so proud to be part of a group and lead a group of storytellers and people just like who've had abortions that work together and support one another as we share our stories and change the way we talk about abortion.
That sounds like amazing work, and I'm really glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you for having me.